Hello again, everyone, and welcome to a very special video from the world of football, where today we're going to be talking about some arena football news. But of course, I can't do that by myself. I am your host, Adam Snow, and sitting across the table from me, as always, is the founder and creator of the world of football on his away white uniform today, Randy Snow. How are you on this wonderful, wonderful day?
I'm great. I'm wearing my road white. You're wearing your home black.
Yeah. I mean, got to rep every time we talk arena football. I got to rep my Grand Rapids Rampage.
Sure.
And being arena football fans, we haven't really had a whole lot of occasions to bust out arena football gear.
Yep.
But something happened again in the form of a lovely podcast hosted by our friend Tim Capper over at arenafan.com. If you guys haven't had a chance to go look at this interview, you should. The AFL Rewind podcast, we mentioned it in one of our previous videos back in February was the last time we talked about it.
Yeah.
Tim has been able to create a wonderful, wonderful relationship with the new Arena Football League commissioner. Why am I blanking on his name all of a sudden?
Lee Hutton III.
I knew it. It was written down. I can't believe I blanked. It's because I'm on camera. Lee Hutton III. And, the first interview we talked about in great depth, and we thoroughly enjoyed that interview. It was great seeing all that transparency. Well, they did it again recently.
Yep.
And we will have a link to that podcast down in the description. Go to that YouTube video and support Arena Fan. Go to the Arena Fan website, arenafan.com. Follow Tim on Twitter. Follow Commissioner Hutton on Twitter. They're great follows, and a lot of information's been coming out. These guys have been, great on social media, promoting the new Arena Football League and teasing what's to come. And teasing what to come, they did in the form of this hour-long interview. It was a really well done interview. It was Tim by himself this time. He didn't have his typical partner in crime. But we just wanted to give them a shout out because we don't want to take any credit. It's not like we did the interview. It's not like we unearthed all this information. No, it was Tim and the commissioner just setting the record straight and being as open and transparent as they can for us arena football fans, which we greatly appreciate.
Yeah,
both of you.
Thank you, Tim, especially Tim, for giving us this opportunity to talk more arena football.
Yes.
Thanks to your great interview.
Yes. Let's get on to why we're talking today.
Get into what we
want
to
talk about. What are we about to
about.
talk about? Well, during that wonderful interview, which you guys can find the link in the description again, in that interview, the commissioner was very, very open and also very, very coy about a lot of locations for potential teams, and even said that within the next 60 days, that's 2 months,
Yep.
we could potentially see 50% of the new cities and maybe even teams rolled out. And a way he kind of put it in that interview too was if we were looking at the road up until the season starting off, kind of in prep, getting prepped behind the scenes and stuff. He said they're in the second quarter of their game. I thought that was a really interesting analogy and the way to put it. So like they're in the middle of the second quarter and they're almost to the halfway point of their, getting prepared to roll things out plan. Is how I would take how he phrased everything. And so we're getting close, guys. And the fact that he laid out a bunch of locations we kind of figured, and maybe some more generalities as, the league dots the I's, crosses the T's, gets all their deals in place, gets their ducks in a row before making anything official, because the last thing we need is for him to say, we're bringing back the Grand Rapids Rampage, and then to have that fall through would probably break a couple of hearts on this video. But I think the commissioner's been playing things very well. He's been very candid and honest and upfront about everything, even saying, like, look, some of these could fall through, but that's why we're making sure we're doing our due diligence.
Can I get a word in edgewise?
I was just about to say, I have been talking an awful lot.
Yeah.
Please jump in.
Yeah. No, what we want to do is we want to talk about some of the cities and locations that were mentioned in the interview with Tim Capper, and we kind of want to expound on that and maybe give a little thought on who we think might be coming to those locations. Now, there were a couple of teams that they mentioned by name, so I'm going to say that these are a stone cold lock.
Okay,
maybe.
Hold on. Let's not go. Not stone cold lock. Let's just say that
But they did mention them by name.
They did mention specific teams by name, but that could change. Let's throw that out there with a big grain of salt. While they were said, who knows? It's a long way to the finish line still, but as of right now, it's fun to speculate and talk about, and that's what we're going to do. So don't take everything too crazy, everybody. But until it's officially official, take that for what you will. Anyway, continue.
Can I talk now?
I'm throwing it back over to you. Good Lord.
Well, one of the first teams that they mentioned by name was the Philadelphia Soul. And I think that just goes without saying. The Soul was a great team for many years. They had a great following, and I think they would be a great team to come back. Now, another team that he mentioned, kind of by name, but not by name, was the Arizona Rattlers. He
Yeah.
talked about a team in Phoenix or in Arizona that and something about a snake in the desert. So of course we know he's talking about the Arizona Rattlers, which we kind of figured that too, since I think their offices are in Phoenix.
Yeah,
So
that was in our video we did speculate. That was one of the teams both you and I are cities we both
right,
figured would be at play there.
right. Another one was the New Orleans Voodoo, and I don't know if they mentioned Voodoo by name in the second interview, but I think they did in the first
In the first
interview.
one they did, definitely
Yes,
not in the second
right.
one. But in New Orleans, they've talked about that location a great deal, and they sound very excited about that one.
And the last one that they kind of mentioned by name was the Minnesota Fighting Pike. Now, they're definitely going to have a team in Minnesota, and the only team that's been up there was the 1996 Fighting Pike. And the commissioner was not crazy about the name or the logo.
Oh,
And
I
all I
wouldn't go
can
that
say
far.
is, Commissioner, can you look at this and say that this is a bad logo? This is a wonderful logo. This is a mama's boy.
Whoa,
This is a
this is getting even creepy for
this is
me.
this is a great logo.
It's a great
There's
logo.
nothing wrong with it. Bring
Well,
it back. People will love it. Uh, the red eye, you maybe tone it down a little bit, but the fighting pike, come on, you gotta love this.
okay, can I chime in without getting yelled at this time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, look, the Minnesota Fighting Pike, it's a great, unique arena football name. And I think that's something Tim brought up in that interview, too. It is a great, unique name. And I kind of hope they keep it, but I mean, it's a new, if they stay in the same city, pick a different name, it's fine either way. But if you do choose to keep it and you update that logo, don't do what the Michigan Panthers just did in the USFL and really go to the extreme in modernizing the logo.
Yeah, you're
We
making
don't
my
want
blood boil just bringing that subject
Yeah,
up.
we don't want to get too crazy with the logo, okay? I mean, I think honoring that logo and maybe a splash, pun intended, a splash of adding a little modern flair to it would probably work. I like that color scheme. I hope they keep that color scheme. Is a lot of gold on that helmet.
Hmm.
I think there's some space that they could, maybe make that logo a little bit bigger to fit onto that helmet shell. But hey, we got a ways to go, and I'm sure there'll be a great marketing person or a team apparel person that will figure out how to make that work. Because that's something else they hinted at. They did talk about having uniform providers kind of in the mix, and the
Right.
commissioner actually being hands on with that. I love hearing how hands on he is with the football that they're producing and the uniforms. But let's run through some of these other teams. Like you've already run down a few of the ones the commissioner had. I got the whole list here.
Yep.
So you talked about Minneapolis. You talked
Yep.
about Philadelphia, Phoenix, Arizona, and New Orleans, and one city that I can't believe we didn't think of. And after our recent trip to St. Louis,
Mm.
that city makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
St. Louis, Missouri had an arena football team, the Stampede, at one point,
Yep.
and
95 to 96.
yep. And when we were there for the XFL game, which you can find that video of our trip on our YouTube channel, the fan base is great.
Yeah.
Crazy, but great.
They are
They are thirsty for football.
football crazy.
If you could pack 30,000 people in to an XFL game week after week, you could easily fill up whatever arena to, for a St. Louis Stampede revival or whatever a new St. Louis
Yep.
Battlehawks esque arena team would look like. I think that is a great choice. And as soon as that city came out of his mouth, I was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And that would actually be a great location. I
Yep.
can't believe we didn't think of that.
Oh, we did not.
Okay, going down the list, you talked about the being bit by a snake walking out in the desert somewhere, as the commissioner said. He also said that you could be going down the slopes somewhere in 2002 where the Winter Olympics were played. Hint, hint at Salt Lake City, Utah.
Where they had the Utah Blaze at one time.
Yes, they did. And I think that's a great location too. So those are the kind of the two. I wonder if those are the two locks. Arizona Rattlers and the Utah Blaze. He mentioned the way he kind of had to offhandedly, jokingly phrase those cities that we all picked up on the hint. Makes me really think that those teams are going to be, moved. Well, Utah not moved, but Arizona will move over from the IFL.
Hmm.
All right, let's see. I'm going down the list here. Some other. He didn't really give any more specific cities than that.
Right. He gave some states.
Yeah, and we'll talk about a couple other things. Okay, I guess one other city he did mention was Jacksonville,
Yep.
Florida. So, as I'm looking at my list here, so he
Yeah.
had Jacksonville, Florida, and then he mentioned very particularly, he said there would be a presence in California, but was very specific to say it would not be LA. So it won't be an LA franchise, and he gave some really interesting reasons as to why they wouldn't, and hard to argue with those points there that he made about LA having so much to do that an arena football team would probably get lost in the shuffle there. But he did later talk about San Diego, California, so that could be a hypothetical location. Or maybe we're going to talk about a San Jose. This is where we're going to speculate: is it a San Jose? Is it a San Diego? Two great locations, I think, for an arena football team, and both that had arena football teams at one point.
San Jose SaberCats was a great team in the Arena Football League. If you brought that team back, you would have immediate name recognition and a fan base that loved that team. It was a really good team. So I think if you're talking California, to me, you got to be talking San Jose SaberCats.
Yep. And then another area he said that there would be a presence was the state of Washington, which makes me either lean towards a Spokane or a Seattle team. I think either of those locations would be great. That Spokane Spokane Shock could come back, or maybe a brand new Seattle arena team would be cool. I mean, they had the Portland Forest Dragons for a little bit there across the state line. So maybe that kind of region over there would see a team, which I think is very interesting. He also mentioned Oklahoma, and of course, you and I are familiar with Oklahoma. You actually went there for an arena game to see the Oklahoma City Yard Dogs.
Yard Dogs.
And then, let's see, other states he mentioned were...
In Oklahoma, they also had the Oklahoma Wranglers, too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The Oklahoma Wranglers. I forgot you got the helmet sitting right there on your shelf.
And the Tulsa Talons, also in the state of Oklahoma.
Interesting. So we got a few options in the Oklahoma area. So a lot of those in play. He did also go on to talk about the state of Illinois, which, of course, Chicago, maybe Moline, where the Quad City Steamwheelers are currently playing. Then he talked about Ohio, which, of course, they had the Columbus Destroyers. They have had the Cleveland Gladiators. And then in the Indoor Football League, they were supposed to bring a team in this season called the Columbus Wild Dogs, which is on hiatus still.
They haven't got off the ground.
They haven't gotten off the ground yet. So is that a city in play for the Arena League? Is that why they haven't come back to the IFL? Big fat question marks there.
And the Toledo Bullfrogs.
Oh, that's right, the team that
an AF2 team that never got off the ground. Maybe that might be a location too.
Oh man, if they bring the Toledo Bullfrogs back, that might be the closest team to us, and we might have to be Bullfrog fans.
They had a logo and everything for that team. When Grand Rapids shut down, we became Cleveland Gladiators fans because that's where head coach
I'm blanking on
Tunn.
Steve Tunn.
Steve Tunn.
There we go. Man, it's hard thinking of stuff on the fly and on camera, everybody.
Yeah, he went from Grand Rapids to Cleveland, so we followed the team over there. And so, that's a 4-hour drive for us. Yeah. If they put a team in Toledo, that's only a 2-hour drive for us.
Yeah, or, a Chicago or Toledo, if they aren't going to put one in Michigan, but we're going to talk about that in a second. Anything else before I move on to listing some of these other
I'd love to see the Gladiators back. I'd make that 4-hour drive anytime.
Cleveland loved their Gladiators. That was
great
a great
arena,
atmosphere.
Great fans. Yeah.
Other locations he mentioned after that in the state of Ohio, the state of Texas, and he did say specifically there would be a couple of teams, so that opens up the door to a lot of possibilities. Dallas, they had San Antonio at some point, they had the Austin Wranglers at one point,
Dallas Desperados,
Houston Thunder Bears at one point, the Texas Terror at another point. So Texas has had a lot of teams historically. Is this going to be a newer franchise? Is it going to take one of those old names and dust them off and bring them back? The Houston Thunder Bears was always a cool name. Just saying. So a couple teams in that state.
It's a big state. I mean, they could put teams just about anywhere.
Yeah. And then the interesting thing then is he did still say that there are some outliers. He did specifically say that the league was going to be definitely structured. And if you kind of put some of these cities on a map, you can kind of see where you're looking at a Northwest, East, and South kind of divisions, which make a lot of sense. And there are some gaps in there for some outliers. And, so us Michigan hopefuls for an arena team, still have a little bit of hope. It would stink to have our neighboring states, Ohio and Illinois, get a team while we're left in the cold. But I digress. And an interesting thing he also mentioned was, and Tim is great at bringing up, and I get his passion for wanting a team up in Canada again.
Sure.
But the commissioner did mention the possibility, nothing concrete. He made sure to say that there was no commitment to this whatsoever.
Right.
But the looking into Mexico City for an arena team would be very, very intriguing.
Well, if they did go to Mexico City, I've already come up with a name for them.
Oh God,
The Aztecs, of course, or they could use the name that was used by another arena team, the Rio Grande Valley Dorados. So
the
it could be the
Mexico City
Mexico
Dorados.
Dorados, maybe.
Maybe, or let them come up with something on their own.
Something,
Randy,
yeah,
come
something
on.
new.
But so those are pretty much all the locations. I hope I'm not missing anything.
No, that's all. That's what I had written down.
Okay, I made sure to take. I took notes listening to that. I listened to it a couple of times. I took a note. We aren't even getting to some of the other stuff that he talked about. But we mainly did want to focus on the teams. He did say 2 conferences, 8 teams in each conference. You know, 4
Or
teams in
divisions.
each division. My only problem is if in how they structure their playoffs. I've already talked about this about the XFL, USFL doing this. You know, they only have 8 teams, so their playoffs are structured where the top 2 teams in each division are getting in, and then that has left out and will leave out, at least in the XFL right now, a team with a winning record. I hope the Arena League, while you got it set up in conferences, maybe try to do the top, however big your playoffs are going to be. If it's a couple weeks of playoffs, would they say maybe the top 8 teams get in? Maybe maybe they
Yeah.
haven't thought that far, but whatever it is, I hope it's not by like a completely like conference versus conference. I hope it's your division winners get in, and then the next best team. Because I think if you want your league to sustain and survive, you want the best teams in. We want the best teams in. So I think ranking them, 1 to 16 or however you're going to do the playoffs, I hope they go that route. But who knows? I mean, they got a plan, and we'll see what they do. And when that information comes, I'll complain about that then.
Yeah. And the last thing I had that I took from the interview was the commissioner said that he was talking about possibly having a show on whatever streaming service
Oh yeah, his like
or TV
live
network,
chat. Yeah.
live with the commissioner, TV show or streaming show. I think that would be a great idea. I like that idea a lot. So yeah, those were the main things that we took away from
Yeah.
the interview, and you should go listen to it for yourself and see if you agree with what we
You
said.
should.
But this is what we took,
Yep.
and
And real quick, I did find my notes. The schedule would be a 10-week regular season, he mentioned,
okay.
2 weeks of playoffs.
Hmm.
So that would make me think if there's only 2 weeks of playoffs to determine a championship, you would probably go from 8 to 4 to 2.
Yeah.
So it would probably be, 8 teams probably in that playoff. And then also, I like the fact that he did mention he wants the season to be shortened up to stop and allow players, at the end of the season to
Right.
join NFL training camps.
End by August,
Yep.
early August, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah, so there was just so much in this interview, guys. Like we aren't even talking about salary cap stuff. We're not even talking about something about players going to the Olympics. What else was there? There was a partnership with USA Football. There's so much in this interview that they crammed in. We implore you guys to go check out that interview out. Tim did a great job doing the interview. Commissioner Hutton was very open and transparent about so much stuff. If anything, you will at least leave going, I have a little more faith that this league's actually going to come to fruition, and in 60 days we're going to find out, some of these teams, hopefully, if everything's going according to plan.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
all right, I guess that's it for me for right now. What about you?
No, that was everything I had. You covered it all.
All right, yeah. So, few teams on our list. Maybe next time we'll have to review when these teams coming out, checking off, which ones we got right and which ones we got wrong. You can find our list back on our previous video we did, which was when the Arena Football League announcement came out back in February 2nd when we did that video.
Yeah, I think it was called the Arena Football League is back.
Yep, and then we have another video called 5 Things We Think the Arena Football League
Needs to
should
do.
do. That was our last video, and we got some feedback even from the commissioner on Twitter for that one. Much appreciated. So until next time, guys, I've been Adam Snow.
And I've been Randy Snow.
And let's go Arena Football. We're almost back, baby.
Yes.